for 2021, but we had some really exciting things happen in 2020. I mentioned pinion jays and the importance of them on our open space properties. One really exciting project that we've been working on over the last year is planting pinion seeds. And pinion jays are really important in helping create pinion juniper habitat, because what they do is they eat pinion nuts and they store a cache of pinion nuts, and sometimes they remember where they stored them and sometimes they don't. And the ones that they lose turn into our pinion trees. And so we, in the open space program, are conducting an experiment to kind of create those same kind of conditions. We've been working with master naturalist volunteers in very safe, social distance appropriate ways to plant more than 1,000 pinion trees this year at Thornton Ranch. We're hoping to expand this program in the future to more of our open space properties. But basically the idea is that we will plant pinion seeds in areas that will help us and our pinion juniper forests and grasslands thrive into the future as the climate changes. So we've chosen places that are more hospitable for tree growth, including drainages and areas with shade, so that the soil is more hospitable to growing seeds. So you can see we have a couple of pictures here. We kept our volunteer groups limited to households. So we had folks go out in very small groups, and we had them plant one seed at a time in their little pole and their tube, and I think they all had a lot of fun doing it. I went out a couple of days and it was great. The next project that we've been working on that's really exciting is at Ortiz Mountains Open Space. We have been so lucky to coordinate with our county wildland crew to do some really unique forest treatment work out there. We've been working for the last few years to do to really understand what's going on at the Ortiz Mountains Open Space, because it's such a really unique landscape. It hasn't been disturbed in quite a while, so there's a lot of old growth trees and a lot of density. And so we do know that for tree health and for environmental and wildlife health, we do need to do some work there. But what's the best way for us to do this kind of treatment in a way that enhances our wildlife habitat rather than detracts from the really unique habitat that's out there already? So through the winter, this winter and into the summer, we'll be working with our wildland crew to do some really cool stuff. And we've been highlighted nationally for some of the work that we've been doing because it's such a unique approach to fire hazard mitigation. So we'll be excited to tell you more as we move forward in the year. Next slide, please. So we have a couple of really exciting partnerships that we've been able to foster over the last year. I mentioned earlier the Master Naturalist Program. This is a partnership between Santa Fe Botanical Gardens, Santa Fe Audubon, and Santa Fe County. And we have been able to do a high-level, really intense and important training program for folks who are interested in resource management. And this year, obviously, things looked a little different. We shifted to an online platform, and that allowed us to work with almost 40 Master Naturalist students, which was double how many people we had been able to work with in the past. And the graduates of this program have been helping us with our resource management goals. The folks that you saw in the pictures on the previous slide, they are Master Naturalist graduates. So we're really excited to be able to continue that partnership, especially in this world where our open spaces and managing our open spaces is more and more important. And then a new partnership that we've been working through this year has been with the Xerces Society for Invertebrate Conservation. They've been really helpful with working through many different initiatives that we have going on this year, including developing a BCC USA certification in and around Santa Fe and Santa Fe County, and helping us work through ways to enhance our pollinator habitat on multiple open spaces throughout the county. And that's it. I have one more slide, but it's really just thank everybody, our Colt Pack committee members, our open space and trail staff, our maintenance crew is incredible. They've been out doing all these things. So we just really appreciate all of them. So with that, that's the end of my presentation. I'm going to invite Ruben to join us just to add any thoughts, and then we'll both be available for questions.
Thank you, Maria. Buenas tardes, everybody. My name is Rubén Cedeño. I was fortunate enough to be supported and re-elected as the chair. But thank you, Chairman Roybal and the commissioners. What I want to do first is give you a short observation under the hood of our advisory committee to look at the operations and management. I do want to say that Maria kept us pretty busy in facilitating various field visits and field trips, like to Thornton Ranch, to the Ortiz open space, to the Madrid open space, so we could look at it. And also, we had an opportunity to provide input and our observations based on a field visit from a land acquisition over there by Pecos on the way to Cafe Fina, and we provided that. We kept pretty busy in 2020. And a part of that was part of the operations. We were fortunate enough to get new members, a critical mass of new members. So what we did was we revisited our charter of 2011, 2014, and we made sure that all the members were on the same page. We did a common focus of our goals, our common roles, our responsibilities to the charter as well to each of the commissioners. And plus, we began to revisit the redefinition of what an advisory council meant so that everybody was on the same page. And based on that, what we did was we moved to go on a quarterly meeting basis opposed to meeting every month. But what we did was we also secured the option that we could meet on special meetings, on special projects such as the management plan, the action plan, the various projects and documents that Maria would present to us for our feedback. So we do have that option to meet on a special meeting basis. But right now we're meeting quarterly. And I think that was God sent, because right after that, the coronavirus came out and we had to go with Zoom. We're getting used to Zooming in our meetings, and we become very, very management efficient and time efficient with that. But finally, what I want to say is that we are looking forward to working with the management plan and anticipating any other projects that may facilitate us meeting on a special meeting basis. So with that, those have been our operational and work plans within the operation of the council, of the advisory council. So I'll stand down right now and answer any questions that anybody have along with Maria.
Okay, great. And first, let me start off by saying thank you to staff and to all our Cold Pack board members. Thank you, Ms. Loman, and also Senor Sereno. We appreciate all the hard work and the passion that this board and our staff shows for the community. I did have a couple of questions, and I did also just want to say, first and foremost, awesome job. It sounds like we are doing some really great work. So, and it's just amazing to see. So I'm really excited to see the rest of the work that happens now in 2021. I did want to ask how, and I'm not sure if we've determined that yet, but as far as the monitoring of the properties, do we know first do we know how we're gonna get that accomplished, and we are if we already have a plan. The other thing is for staff training. Do we already know, or have we identified where we'll be getting the staff training, and also any ideas or thoughts at this point on how we're going to enhance communication with the communities to get input from our constituents? And those are just a couple of quick questions, and I was just curious on those. But man, it really sounds like we're doing some really amazing work. So thank you for all your dedication and time. You guys are doing an awesome job.
Mr. Chair, Commissioners, just to quickly answer your questions. Right now, we're focused on managing the property that we have. There are always opportunities for more projects and more acquisition, but I think that really what we've heard from not just you as commissioners, but also from our constituents in Santa Fe County, that taking care of our properties and our resources and our trails is a really, really important thing. And so that's why we've identified sustainable trail maintenance and building training as really important for our staff. You know, we are able to do some work, but we need to enhance our ability to do some of that work in-house. So we do have some ideas of what we'd like to do, and that has been reflected in our budget and our budget request. And so we are working through what that could look like. And in terms of your other question about outreach and communications, I have so many ideas. I just want to move forward with them. I would really like to get more involved in that. And so that's really what I'd like to do in 2021, is to spend a lot of time and focus on that. So I'm excited to do that. Thank you.
That's great to hear. And I know we're probably getting native pinon seeds, and you know, I have a few pinon trees planted in my property too, and they've actually grown quite a bit over the years. I have one that's close to 18 feet tall, and I planted it when it was like 5 or 4 feet tall. But I was curious too, where do we get the pinon seeds that we actually plant?
Mr. Chair, all of the pinon seeds came from our properties. Some of them came from Thornton Ranch. Quite a few of them came from the Ortiz Mountains. Those are the two properties off the top of my head, but I know Peggy spent many, many hours out picking pinon seeds from our properties. I can get more information if you'd like.
No, that's awesome. I was just curious if we purchased them or if we actually picked them. So that's wonderful. Thank you. And I saw Commissioner Hanson, you had your hand up. I'll go to you next, and then I'll go to Commissioner Hughes.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, Maria. It's so nice to see you. And Ruben, also, thank you for being the chair of COPAC. I want to just give a shout out to the plan, to the Xera Society, and working with our pollinators. You know how happy that makes me. I'm also bringing a resolution forward at the National Association of County on the protection of pollinators. Also, hopefully, we did some editing on it and it will pass the committee. But you know, that is something I care very, very much about. So that makes me very excited. I'm a little frustrated with Romero Park, and hoping that we can start getting that going on the second phase. But I know under this pandemic, everything is so much more challenging. And I know we are moving forward with that. And I know that is a very, like you said, well-loved and used park. And since it is really our only park, and it is in such a great location for so many constituents to use, it's near and dear to my heart. So I was happy to hear you say well-loved, because I believe that is the case also. Everything sounds great. I think it's really important that we protect our bats and that we protect our pinyon jays. I'm always extraordinarily happy, even living in town, when I see a pinyon jay. I used to have them living in my yard. I haven't seen them for a couple of years, but they seem to like the Pyracanthus as a place to live for some reason. I've had pinyon jay nests there, but anyhow, I just think that everything you're doing is great, and thank you so much for the hard work. I know it's been challenging under this pandemic to get out and do things. So thank you for hanging in there and making Santa Fe County a better place for all our constituents. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Hanson. Commissioner Hughes?
Yes, so thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you for this great presentation. I have two questions. The first one is, when will you take me out to see all this great stuff? Can we do that after the pandemic, or when things calm down a little bit?
Yes, absolutely. I would love to go out to all of our properties.
Okay, so yeah, some of them I have not seen. Some of them I have enjoyed, many times over the years. But the Thornton Ranch and the Ortiz Mountain Preserve I have not seen yet. I would love to see those. My other question is, you mentioned at the beginning that we had this pattern where we spent 5 years buying stuff and then another 5 years, basically fixing it up and planning how to use it and developing other things. Do you see that cycle repeating at some point in the future, where maybe we would have another round of acquisitions and then work on those pieces? Let me know about that.
Mr. Chair, Commissioner Hughes, I think that could be a conversation for a future date, a near future date. I know that the demand for open spaces and trails in particular has, been anecdotally, we've seen more folks out at our trails this past year than we have in quite a while. And our trails have always been well loved. We always need to balance our desire for more properties and more projects in this way with our ability to manage our properties. And I think that that's where we've really been focused over the last few years. Our county open space program is incredible. The Cult Pack members and the staff who started this program in the 2000s had such incredible vision. The properties that they have helped us acquire and the ideas and the vision and the exciting new opportunities for all of these properties are so incredible. And we have such, these properties are going to be so cool. And we've started to get there, but we haven't quite gotten there. And a lot of that has to do with the fact that there are lots of other needs in our county, not just open space. And so we always need to balance that. I would love to have those conversations, and I'm sure constituents would love to see more open space and more trail acquisitions, but we need to be able to take care of them. That's really what we've learned over the last 20 years is there's a lot to do for open space and trail properties.
Yeah, that makes sense, and I just look forward to that conversation, but also to the tour of sometime this summer, hopefully. Thank you. That's all I have, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Commissioner Hughes. Manager Miller, go ahead.
Maria was very diplomatic in her answer to Commissioner Hughes' question. I think that, we are grossly behind on staffing up to actually manage and maintain 6,600 acres and 60 miles of trails. We've had the good, and I agree with Maria that our program is phenomenal, but along with it, we never simultaneously built the staff to maintain it. It's just not been where the county commission of 20 years, the priority to staff up. We've tended to need public safety staff, other maintenance staff. I mean, we have created a maintenance program, but it's not nearly adequate to really address opening these properties and managing them for the public. So over the past several years, as Maria said, we really focused on doing plans so that we could then say, okay, well, if we want to get these properties open to the public, used by the public, what assets do we need to invest in? What do we need to build? And then what kind of maintenance staff do we need? And I think before we venture out on acquiring any more property, we need to take a real hard look at what do we need as a county to really develop, maintain, and manage what we currently have. Because the pressure that we got, and Thornton Ranch is a real good example, is when are you going to open it? Well, opening it requires millions of dollars in investment in a trail system for the public, and also staff to manage it. So, and that's just one of the many properties that we need to really look at how do we staff it appropriately. In addition, I think that continuing to build out the infrastructure that we already have started on the river trail and the rail trail were things that the commission had really wanted to see to fruition from the center of town out into the county. So that's where we've been focusing the bonds of the last 10 years, not so much in acquisition, but in building out trails that everybody could use. And you can really see the evolution of the program in that way. And I just want to also really commend the members of COLPAC. That has always been a phenomenal committee with really active members who give us so much of their time and energy and input for free, and it's great. And we've also previously had a really good volunteer program on building out and maintaining our trails, and that's another area where we need to refocus some county resources to get that back up and as active as it was in the past. Because that use of volunteers, pays back tenfold the amount of county tax dollars we have to put into something that everybody can enjoy. So I just wanted to add to what Maria said, because she was being really diplomatic and not saying how big the need is for maintenance funds in the way of staff and dollars invested into those management plans.
Okay, well, thank you. This all contributes to my understanding of what I know is a great program, and so I appreciate the responses. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Commissioner Hughes, and thank you, Manager Miller, for putting that extra information to the commission. And I agree, enough can't be said for the COLPAC board that doesn't get isn't paid to be on this board, and that just does a great job. So, once again, please express the gratitude from the commission to this board. We do appreciate it. Okay, so are there any other questions from any other board members? Commissioner Hanson?
Mr. Chair, this is Rudy.
Okay, I'm going to go to Commissioner Hanson because I just called on her, and then I'll go to you after Commissioner Garcia.
No problem.
Thank you, Manager Miller and Maria. And I think that Commissioner Hughes was probably referring to the resolution that we did pass on the 30 by 30 to protect our open space. And I totally support that and recognize that we want to move in that direction and support, our elected officials, but at the same time, they need to give us money to do that. And money is always seemingly in short supply. So now that possibly Senator Udall is back home, I don't know, I haven't run into him yet, but maybe he will be one of our champions to help us with our open space and finding us money from a congressional delegation as a way to help improve our open space and possibilities. But hiring more staff and being able to do the maintenance and everything is so important to providing services to the public. So thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Hanson. I'm going to go to Commissioner Garcia and then to Commissioner Hamilton. Commissioner Garcia?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, staff, for the presentation. Great presentation. And as Manager Miller knows, this into back in 1995, whenever we actually passed the return obligation bond, and there's several commissioners that actually moved forward with this proposal, and it got approved. The taxers. And now we have all this property that we're dealing with, and I think it's really great. One of the things is thank you for the individuals that actually volunteer to run our committee and work in Colpack, because as Manager Miller, we have property all over the entire county. And Commissioner Hughes, as you said, I want to go for a tour. I went for a tour about 2 years ago with Maria to some property in the Cerritos area, and she said, "Do you have a walking stick? No. Did you bring some water? No. I don't need water." And it took me like, it was interesting. It took me like about almost the whole entire day, 8 hours to go up that mountain and come back down. And she actually fed me lunch. She shared lunch with me. And so I think it's actually great for us to go and live in our open space. And I want to go with you. We can't all be like Commissioner Hampton and get in a helicopter and fly around the county and look at stuff. But something I want to fairly kind of stuff. But, however, I will do that. I want to do that someday. And once again, to the individuals that help out, volunteers, thank you, as well as staff for what you do for your job. Thank you. One of the questions I have is into the, we talk about 2011-4, the resolution, purchase property, how we're going to do it. And I would like to, because right now we have no money to purchase property. We have no more money to purchase space anymore at all. We have not passed a general obligation bond. So I would like to amend that portion of the 2011-4 to let's take that out, because we don't need that anymore because we have no more money. And one of the other things I would like to know, as into educate people, how educating the schools. I know this COVID has us very stressed out, but how are we going and talking to the kids or anybody out there? I went to the shooting range the other day in Camel Tracks. I talked about some individuals out there that didn't speak English, but I told them who I was, and I said, we actually want to clean up. And they said, we're willing to help. So how do you get individuals out there, school kids or individuals out there too?
Okay. Was that a question, Commissioner Garcia?
Mr. Chair, I might just be able to give a general comment to the education piece and the outreach piece, things are a little bit more challenging in our current situation. We've always struggled a little bit with getting out and interacting with trail users. And part of that is because of our capacity and all of the projects that we do have moving forward. But so it just means that as we move forward in this new virtual world, we have to be a little bit more creative about how we interact with our constituents. And, you know, one of the really exciting things is we're exploring new technologies. Daniel Frescas helped the planning division make a video to advertise a planning meeting we have scheduled in the next day or so. And so we'll just need to start to rely on those technologies a little bit more in this new world, but there are also other venues for us to start using that maybe we haven't used so much in the past. And that's one of the really exciting opportunities of this next year, is that we will be able to start to explore those new options.
Thank you, Maria. Thank you, Maria. Thank you, Mr. Chair. Also, one of the things that I remember when Marcos Trujillo was county commissioner from Wentworth, and the Chimoyo property behind the Rancho de Chimoyo. I forget his name, the older man there that the road's named after. He actually wanted to put his cattle on that property, and Colleen Baker tried to work with him and work with whoever wanted to get that property done, and it still has not happened. And so so one of my things, like I'm asking Maria or the planning division, is what's the time frame for all this stuff? We plan. What is the time frame to get that place open, that place? So what is the time frame, and what does it take to get it done? So you can leave it at that, but I appreciate your presentation, as well as all the volunteers that actually help out with Colpac, because to get volunteers involved in the community these days, it's hard. It's rough, but thank you, Maria. Thank you to the planning staff. And so just think about.
Thank you, Commissioner Garcia. I appreciate it. Is there any other questions or comments? I'm going to go to Commissioner Hamilton.
No, I very much appreciate the presentation and the discussion, but I have no further questions. Thank you.
Okay, Commissioner Hamilton, thank you very much for that. So I just want to reiterate once again, thank you for this presentation. Great job. We really appreciate it. And you guys have a great day. Mr. Sereno, thank you for being the chair of our Colpac board, and thank you for all the hard work. So with that being
Mr.
said,
Chair.
Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate the opportunity to give these kinds of presentations and to recognize, you know, the support of our Colpac members, but we also need to recognize the support of the commissioners. You know, this commission, but also commissioners in the past have been incredibly supportive of our open space program, and that is really why this program is as successful as it is, and it has been able to have these big ideas. So I just wanted to say thank you for all of that.
Absolutely. Maria, we appreciate all your hard work as always. You know, it's just the passion that you bring to the to this effort, and Mr. Olafson as well as always does such a great job. So please express our gratitude to staff. Thank you very much. Okay, so we're going to move on to our next item, and this is item number 5B, and this is Santa Fe County Administrative Complex, grand prize of show, and I'm going to go to the county manager.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. As you know, we built our county administrative complex over the last several years, and that includes 102 Grant and 100 Catron. And, you know, we just finished 102 Grant, but we finished 100 Catron last year. And since then, we have received, along with James and the team, the design build team, Jane's Construction, we've received several awards on some of our county buildings. This project, as you know, is in the heart of downtown Santa Fe. And we took a lot of care to avoid disrupting the surrounding residential area and tried to fit that 100 Katrin building into the surrounding area. The building is on the historic site of the old courthouse, and that building was taken down. And I just wanted you to see that we have won another award. It was the Best Buildings Grand Prize of Show for the General Contractors Association Awards. And they put together a video as the Best Building and Grand Prize of Show that I'm hoping Daniel will be able to play the video because I think that you will find it really fascinating. It speaks to how incredible this project was for the contractor, the general contractor, and the team to include all of our staff led by former Deputy County Manager Tony Flores, Paul Olafson, Daniel Sanchez, PJ, Griego Daniel Fresquez, Tessa Joe, Mascarenas, and several others that worked on this project. And I just thought you might enjoy the video and the recognition that this project received. Give it a go, Daniel.
So, Mr. Chair, WebEx doesn't play videos very well. So I have Daniel Fresquez in IT is going to stream it simultaneously. If we want to click on the link that I just sent through the chat feature on WebEx, if we click on that, it'll direct us to YouTube. We can all watch it. So IT will stream it on Facebook and YouTube as we're watching it, and then we can come back to this meeting if that works.
So Daniel, say exactly how they should get to it.
So on the chat feature on the bottom right, if you click on chat, I sent a link to the YouTube video. If everybody does that and clicks on that link, it should direct everybody to YouTube, and we can watch that video on YouTube and then come back to the meeting.
Okay, that sounds good. Thank you, Daniel.
AGC New Mexico and the Albuquerque Journal are pleased to announce the grand prize winner. The winner is Santa Fe County Administrative Complex.
Janes Corporation collaborated with Studio Southwest Architects to successfully deliver the Santa Fe County Administration Complex. Site constraints were among the biggest challenges on this project. This project was in the heart of downtown Santa Fe. The site spanned curb to curb of major roadways leading into
Mr. Chair, if I may.
Constraints included tourist diversion, road closures, busy residential roadways, confined laydown areas which required just-in-time deliveries, and so contractors were limited to only using one Janes lift to move material around the job site. During the day, you would have student drop-off for the daycare or the Presbyterian church, and we had to plan our deliveries around that. So it was difficult when we were erecting the parking structure. It was a precast structure, so we had 11 semis a day roughly, and a crane on top of that, and having to coordinate parents with student drop-off, even something as simple as garbage pickup. Typically our superintendents had to take out the trash for some of those single-family homeowners because the site was so congested. And within the project, we demolished a former courthouse that was on site. And while we were going through our excavation, we actually found old foundations from the 1600s. At some point, we were finding Native American artwork.
Mr. Chair,
pottery.
this is Rudy.
We consistently worked with the archaeologist, the Santa Fe
Commissioner
County
Garcia, I think we're waiting till the
because
video
we
is
found
over.
so many
Or
objects.
did you have
they
a
wanted
question?
to document them. They also wanted to document the old foundations because they knew buildings had been there, but they didn't know the exact location. So with us finding these foundations, they were able
I guess
to
you can
get a better
download
idea
it
of where
somewhere else and watch the video.
historic value that we got out of that project unintentionally was actually pretty significant, and it was a lot of fun. The team dynamics on the project was amazing. We had an incredible team, from the owner to community to subcontractors to just GC, all collaborating together. It was almost one big happy family. You rarely ever see that type of collaboration. It was easily one of the best projects I've worked on regarding team dynamics and everyone getting along, everybody appreciating what the other brought to the table. It means everything to the project team, to all those involved, the architect, the owner, the community, subcontractors. They all recognize this award is a prestigious award amongst our building community. It's a testament to the work that went into the project, so that's great. And again, going back to our team dynamics, it shows how well we work together to create such a wonderful project for the community.
The owner is Santa Fe County, and the general contractor is the Janes Corporation. The Santa Fe County Administrative Complex consolidated many county functions into one campus. This design-build project constructed a new administration office complex and parking structure. The project is in the heart of downtown Santa Fe in a residential area, and care was taken to avoid disruptions to the surrounding areas. The design of the project was intended to fit in with the aesthetics of the surrounding buildings, including buttressed walls, parapets, trellises, and a stucco exterior with wooden trim in classic blue. The building is situated on a designated historic site, and the demolition of the old courthouse building took place before construction began, and unearthed historic finds on the project that dated back to the year 1610. Due to the sensitivity of the location, additional planning was required. In order to avoid damaging historical artifacts and to continue the momentum established to meet the project schedule, construction was relocated to another area of the site. Many details set this project apart. There were no delays through a wet winter, spring, and fall. This rare design-build project for a public entity was truly a team effort, with an engaged owner, a project manager and team that provided firm leadership and expectations, all contributed to make this project the best building's grand prize of show.
Just to let you know, I'm back. It's completed.
I'm back as well.
And I see Commissioner Hanson. I know Commissioner Garcia.
I'm here as well. Sorry.
Did you get to see it, Commissioner Garcia?
No, but I would just like to give a little comment on it, whenever, if I have a chance.
Just so you know, you can go to Board Docs as well. If you go into Board Docs, the video is loaded in Board Docs. It just doesn't play well over WebEx, but you can see the video. If you couldn't see it on YouTube right now, you can click on the video by going into the meeting in Board Docs. That video will stay there.
Thank you. Mr. Chair, if I may speak.
Go ahead, Commissioner Garcia.
I would just appreciate Manager Miller and the entire community, as well as our staff and even previous staff, as into the time frame that they did and what you all did to get that thing demolished and on time, within budget. The entire staff that took over it and worked on it, it's awesome, because as an individual that works as did projects for Santa Fe County, to actually get an award like this, and it's awesome. And so thank you, Manager Miller, and your team, and and some other individuals that used to work there, as into great job, Santa Fe County. Yes, we did. You guys all did a great job. And just to see how the construction went down, got built, concrete, 4 o'clock in the morning, 3 o'clock in the morning, and everything else. Awesome job to build that project. And it's great to be a part of Santa Fe County team. And says, yeah, look what we did. We all did that. All the entire team out there that did that. And Catherine, and one of the things is that I always had the question about is, when do we get our plaque on our wall there, as into for that property, that building. Jim, you can cross my name out, but I just want to know when we can get the plaque on the property. But once again, thank you all the team who worked on that. Awesome job. And every single individual, from contractors to architects to whoever, drive by that building and they say, you know what a beautiful property, what a beautiful building. You all did a great job. The entire staff, the entire community, and under your vision, Catherine, everybody did a great job. And I just wanted to say that as into what a beautiful piece of property, what a beautiful building. And just, can we get our plaque on the wall whenever we can? But thank you for the presentation, and what a great job for Santa Fe County and the entire team to receive that award. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Commissioner Garcia. Manager Miller, did you have anything to add?
Mr. Chair, no, I just wanted you to see the award and the video that was made for the award program, and to recognize the staff that worked on it. And I want to give a shout out to Barbara Herrera, even though she was on the other side. We were fortunate to discover her talents and bring her on at the county, which gives me a segue into the next item.
Okay, great. So we're going to go ahead and go on to our next item. And this is Santa Fe County Sobering Services Crisis Center. And we have our community service, from our community service department, our director, Miss Rachel O'Connor.
Mr. Chair, real quick before Rachel comments. So I wanted to make sure that the board, you earlier awarded or approved a lease for the Santa Fe Recovery Center for the Sobering Services at our Galisteo property, but I knew none of you have had the opportunity to see the progress on that facility. And so I asked Daniel if he would run over and do a little video, since we are getting close to completing that. But I'm going to let Rachel give you kind of the overview of where we are with that. And what I wanted to say was that this is another design build project. So coming out of doing the 100 Catron, then 102 grant, we also did a design build on the Galisteo property, and we're fortunate to bring Barbara Herrera on board to help lead this project. So I just wanted, that's why I said it was a good segue, because we're very fortunate to have her talents added to our team here at Santa Fe, with all the people who worked on 100 Catron and 102 grant. On the county side, we were able to also bring Barbara on board. And with that, I would just turn it over to Rachel to talk about the overall project for the crisis triage, the sobering center, and where we stand on this design build project and the services that will be provided out of that facility. And then we'll have to do another one of those YouTube clicks. So sorry, just want to make sure you all get to see it. So thank you.
Mr. Chair, if I may, real quick, this is Rudy once again. as Manager Miller said, Barbara was the lady that was on that site on 100 Catherine, the new building. And I said, this lady, she's the project manager on this property. Yes, she is. Great. And just had to give her kudos. Her and the entire team, have to give her kudos, and the entire team. And yes, now she works for the county, and I'm happy to have her there, and we're happy to have her there. So just wanted to give her a shout out because she was there. I said, this lady, she's not going to run this project, is she? Yes, she did. And she did. And she was there for James. But thank you, Manager Miller. Appreciate that. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Commissioner Garcia, and thank you for that recognition. Is there any other comments or questions from the commission? Okay, so are we good to move on to the next item, Manager Miller?
Oh, no, I need Rachel to tell you what's happening at the facility, and then we have a real quick video that Daniel took this past week.
That's for item 5C, correct?
Yes.
Thank you. You're up,
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Director O'Connor, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm disappointed that I didn't get to be the first person to say thank you to Barbara Herrera, who's done an incredible job on this project as well, and to PJ and all the Public Works Department who have really worked with us and worked hard, not just to make this building at 100 Catherine beautiful and a pleasant place to work, but also to do the same for the project I'm going to talk about today. So, as many of you know, about 4 years ago, the commission made a decision to build a crisis center. Myself and my behavioral health program manager, Alex Dominguez, looked around New Mexico and the Southwest and worked cooperatively with Pam Hyde and a number of people to determine a model that would best suit this area. And that model is coming to fruition. And as many of you know, the building is located at 2052 Galisteo. It's a county-owned building. We used to have the Community Services Department housed there on one side. The other side housed what we call Sobering Services. And I've left the name on because it's familiar to you, but I'm going to talk about how those services are going to evolve. Essentially, the building, if you can recall or had been there in the past, has been redone substantively. On the one side of the building, we will house a detoxification center that will be run by Santa Fe Recovery Center. They have historically provided detoxification services in Santa Fe County. I'm very pleased that Santa Fe County has built this program to essentially double the capacity of detoxification in Santa Fe County from about 15 individuals to 30. The building is beautiful. In addition to doubling the capacity, it is the expectation of many partners, including Christos, Santa Fe Recovery Center, and the county, that we will be able to provide a medical detox services for the first time in our county, and offer an expanded array of services. We believe that the recovery center will be able to move into the building upon completion. Our expectation is anywhere in the last 2 weeks of March. And we are excited to be working with them towards that goal. Mr. Chairman, the other side of the building will house what we call a living room model behavioral health crisis center. We are very impressed with the building that has come about. It houses a large area for clients to relax and where de-escalation services will be provided. There are therapy rooms and meditation rooms. This building will also house the mobile crisis team. And will provide crisis services ranging everywhere from navigation to therapy services to de-escalation services. There is an independent entrance for law enforcement to bring people to the crisis center who have a primary diagnosis of mental illness and who meet the criteria. Mr. Chairman, this is a beautiful building. And I think that it's a testament to Santa Fe County that we have prioritized these kinds of services and made a beautiful location. So often I see that many people with substance abuse or mental health services often are placed in areas that are inconvenient and uncomfortable. And I think that the county should be proud of the services that we will be able to provide there. I do want to add that the detoxification center will be opening first. And then we hope to have a phased move-in of Santa Fe Recovery Center, first with the mobile crisis team, and then through April and May with the crisis services staff that includes an executive director and many other folks. I believe that and Barbara, correct me if I'm wrong, the fire marshal inspection was to be held today. So we are moving quickly towards fruition. I think the community is ready for this project, and I am so grateful to the board and everyone who has worked on it for making it so beautiful, including my staff, both my behavioral health program manager and CSD's other staff that have been part of this project.
Great. Thank you, Director O'Connor. We really appreciate the hard work and effort. This is going to be just an amazing service that Santa Fe County can provide. And, you know, I'd really like to see the facility and actually tour it if that's a possibility. You know, I'm sure it's something that the county could be really proud of, to finally be able to provide this this service at this caliber. So I think it's just going to be a great opportunity, and so I really want to thank you for that, and I'm excited to see it if we can. Other commissioners comments? Commissioner Hansen.
Mr. Chair, this is Rudy.
Commissioner Hansen, you're muted.
Okay, thank you so much.
I'll go to you next, Commissioner Garcia.
Thank you so much, Rachel. I think this is such an important project for our community and so many people who need this kind of help. I want to especially thank Barbara for all her hard work and dedication. And I think it's so nice to see you, Barbara, even if it's virtually. And I thought maybe you might like to say a few words since you are here with us. So if you don't mind, Mr. Chair, I want to recognize Barbara and let her say a few words if she would like.
Absolutely. Barbara, would you like to address the board?
Of course. Commissioner.
How come it says Gary Hiron, Mr. Chair?
Because it's in Gary's office.
No, I'm just trying to say hi. Got it. Go ahead, Barbara. Sorry, Mr. Chair.
Mr. Chair, Commissioners, Rachel, I'm very grateful to be part of this Santa Fe County team. I am truly honored for all the recognition. I think you all have made my day in the recognition that you've offered me all around the board. This project I started on January 6th last year, and my first day running, I was calling Rachel saying, let's start talking about this project. I heard there's a project that needs to be done. And she and I and Alex met immediately. We all hit it off great. We had a great team effort. I keep telling everybody, I didn't do this on my own. I couldn't have done this on my own. There's a lot of people involved, Rachel, Alex in particular, who started this process, and I kind of took the handoff from them, and we all worked together very hard to make a great project. Like County Manager Miller said, this was a small design build project. It took a lot of effort. We had 5 contracts. There was a lot of coordination, a lot of meetings, and it was quite an intense session, if you will. And we are very close to finishing it up. I'm excited for everyone to see the final product. And again, I can't thank you enough for allowing me the opportunity to be a part of this project for the community and for Santa Fe County. Thank you.
Yay.
Thank you, and great job. Okay, I'm gonna go to Commissioner Garcia.
So one of the things,
Daniel, you had your hand up, sir. Did you have something you got to tell us?
I just wanted to see if you wanted to play the video of the actual center and then comment afterwards, because it's actually it's really beautiful.
Yeah, let's do that. Commissioner Garcia, I'll come to you as soon as the video is over, sir.
Not a problem, sir. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
All right, so Mr. Chair, we're gonna have to do the same thing we did last time. I just sent a link through the chat feature. So if everybody would go to the bottom right, click on chat and click on the link to YouTube, and IT at 100 Catch will stream it on Facebook and YouTube.
Okay, we're back. Commissioner Garcia?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just interesting project. And once again, thank you, staff, for what you do, and very interesting project. And one of the things that we all need to realize is that it's not just about constructing the facility or buying a piece of property and building this and that, but the partnership that takes a lot of work from every individual in the county, whether it's financial, procurement, Manager Miller, and everybody else, is to help out the community. Rachel O'Connor, all that other stuff that takes part as into how this all going to work together is very interesting to me. But Barbara, great job, and staff, great job in getting it completed. But one last thing is the partnership stuff, that how it all works. Santa Fe County is probably number one in the entire state to work out partnerships with every every provider out there. But great job, staff. Thank you guys. Thank you, everything. Appreciate that.
Thank you, Commissioner Garcia. Are there any other commissioners that have comments? I just want to say it was a great video. What a beautiful building. You're absolutely right. Great job. Any other comments from the commission? Commissioner Hughes?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair. I enjoyed the video. I'm really looking forward to this opening, and I just wanted to say this is such a needed service in our community. I'm really glad that the county has stepped up to up our game in this area, and I'm looking forward to it. Thanks to everybody who worked on it.
Thank you, Commissioner Hughes. Okay, any other comments? Thought I heard something.
Mr. Chair, this is Barbara. I want to give a huge shout out to Daniel. It's amazing what he can do with his video cameras. He is always instrumental in helping us illustrate what we do. You're right, it's not about the building, Commissioner Garcia, it's about the whole aspect, but in the end, that's what we're forecasting for a show, and so that you all can see it. So thank you, Daniel, for your hard work, and we're going to get you more involved going forward.
Sounds good.
Absolutely. Great job, Daniel, as usual. Okay.
Thank you.
So we're going to go on to our next item, and this is item number 6, and this is matters of public concern. Tessa, have we had anybody from the public that has signed up for to address the board?
No, Mr. Chair, we've not.
Okay, so I'm going to reach out to the public. Is there anybody from the public that would like to address the commission? You can unmute yourself. I do see Roger Taylor. And anybody else that may want to address the board, if you would like to unmute and just state your name for the record, and we'll go ahead and take your name. Once again, I'll ask, is there anybody from the public that would like to address the board today? Okay, I'm going to go ahead and close public comment, and we do have one person from the public that would like to address the board. Mr. Roger Taylor, would you like to go ahead and go, sir?
Thank you. My apologies. I didn't know there was a prior sign up for this, so but thank you for allowing me to speak. My name is Roger Taylor, and I live in Galisteo, New Mexico. I have two things that I'd like to speak to. One is just to thank all of the commissioners for your resolution on the Lanel Environmental Impact Study request on behalf of the 285 Alliance, of which I am the co-chair. We very much appreciate that. It's a matter of great concern for a lot of the communities along the 285 corridor. And I'm sure the 599 corridor, where a lot of this nuclear waste is transported and is planned to be transported. And there is a large group of us that will be getting on a call a little bit later tonight with our new Congresswoman, Teresa Ledger Fernandez, to talk about this issue. So we are following up on your resolution action, so you're not just left on your own. So we're still out there. The second thing I wanted to bring up is just something that I've been thinking about for a while and talking to a lot of my neighbors along the 285 corridor, out here on 41, etc. And that is wondering if we need to start looking at maybe doing a water evaluation planning study for this particular area. We're looking at a lot of things changing in the last year or two significantly. Some of it due to the pandemic, some of it due to climate. But, you know, we're looking at, you know, the existing El Dorado population, and of course there is an El Dorado water system. There's about 20 HOAs plus a few along the corridor between El Dorado and Lamy, which are hooked up to that water supply. There is Galisteo out on 41 here, which has two water mutuals, one of which I am the vice president of, and one is for the traditional village. We have some coming developments with Tierra Bello up on Lamy Hill, with Spirit Wind West outside of Lamy, which will add several hundred homes. We have the Cimarron Village, which is going to be commercial and residential mix, which also has a lot. And I know that as these developments have come along over the last couple of decades, there were water rights and water looks, but there's been a lot of change in the climate, and possibly the reality of whether the water is actually there as much as people thought it was not there 10 years ago. And then we have this newest thing that is going on with Saddleback Ranch here on 41, where a retreat center is being planned and up to 30 homes, quite possibly. And so we're seeing this encroaching development going on out here in the wide open spaces, which were ranches. And of course, there are still some existing large ranches. In our code, we have, density bonuses as a reward for conservation easements and things like that. But I wonder if we're really looking at some of what the pressures are that are bringing people here. I know in Galisteo, switching hats again as president of the Galisteo Community Association, we typically have had half a dozen or more homes on the market for 6 or 7 years. In the last 6 months, all of them have been purchased, including a half a dozen lots that have been on the market for over a dozen years. They're all gone and being developed. And to all people from out of state, California, Texas, and Colorado primarily. And when I talk to these people as they're coming in or going through the purchase process, they're doing it for 2 reasons. Economics of where they are, too high a cost of living. So Santa Fe looks like a wonderful opportunity, and Albuquerque is too large and sprawling. And number 2, the climate issues that they're running into there with water and fire and drought. And it just seems there might need to be a larger study. I mean, I know the Water Policy Board looks at some of this planning, et cetera, but I wonder if we should be looking at that in some of these areas in the county where there's some movement going on and development happening. These big pocket groups that are coming in and buying up ranches and setting up retreat centers. And oh, by the way, to recoup some of their financial investment, they also want to put in a small community to sell to people, et cetera. So it's just something to think about. I wanted to raise the concern. A lot of people out in this direction are beginning to talk about that. So I raise it to you. I'm not sure where you go with that, but it's something to consider.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Taylor, and thank you for all your information that you provided to the commission. All righty, well, you have a great evening, sir. Thank you very much again for being here.
And thank you for listening.
Yes, sir. Okay, so next we're on to item number 7, and this is matters from the county manager. So we'll get an update on the COVID-19. Manager Miller?
Thank you, Mr. Chair and Commissioners. So just our kind of a brief overview on COVID-19 issues relative to Santa Fe County. We are seeing a significant decline in COVID-19 cases, as are the majority of counties in New Mexico. The overall numbers for the state are down. Currently, Santa Fe County has a rate of 20.7 positive cases per 100,000. That should be updated tomorrow, and I would estimate that it will come down from that as well. And also a positivity rate of 4.22% In order for the county to go green, though, the county must reach no more than 8 cases per 100,000 or 12 cases a day for Santa Fe County. To date, 135 people have lost their lives due to COVID-19 in Santa Fe County. Also, as you probably heard on national news, there have been over 500,000 cases of our deaths to COVID-19 across the country. We're the highest in the world, sadly. But that said, vaccinations are getting out there, and currently there have been 501,000 COVID-19 vaccinations given in New Mexico, and in Santa Fe County, 16.8% of the population has received at least 1 dose of the vaccine. That's 21,322 people, and 9.4% have been fully vaccinated. Over 20% of those vaccinated in Santa Fe County have been over the age of 75. Our emergency manager, Martin Vigil, and Rachel O'Connor are working with a team that includes the New Mexico Department of Health, Christa St. Vincent's, Presbyterian Hospital, PMS, La Familia, and the city of Santa Fe, as well as others, to plan vaccination events. They are tentatively planning 2 large-scale vaccination events that would be held when there is sufficient vaccine supply. And that would be one in the high incidence area of Santa Fe and the other in Edgewood. We went to print our first general public awareness rack card campaign that provides information on registration for vaccines, and also we'll begin distributing tomorrow these materials to all the seniors that are getting home delivered meals and to others who get bulk delivery of groceries. In addition, these materials will be handed out to the general public at testing sites, restaurants, grocery stores, and other places with high volume traffic. And then we'll be working cooperatively with the State Agency on Aging to do vaccinations for our seniors who are served by our seniors program. We are working with the city and others on holding registration events for vaccines. So that is what I have on COVID updates.
Okay, great. Do we have any questions from the board relative to the update that we just got for COVID-19? I can't tell. Is your hand up, Commissioner Hanson, or you just hold? No, never mind. Okay, I have to put my glasses on. Okay, we're gonna go on to our next item, and it's another update, and this is a miscellaneous updates. Will this be you giving us this as well, Manager Miller?
Yes, Mr. Chair, and I really don't have much other updates, except I did want to let the board know that the departments and elected offices are turning in their budget requests for next fiscal year this week, and then we're going to start compiling that information. As you know, we lost our budget director, Joey Rowe, to a position down in Albuquerque, but we've assembled a team of existing staff to work through the budget process. We'll be setting up a schedule for doing requesting budget study sessions with the board, giving you information as we start to go through department hearings and revenue projections. You will not see in this board packet a finance report, and that's because we're finance, Yvonne and I are working on putting together a more comprehensive finance report that'll be the kind of a precursor to the budget process relative to how we see revenues, projecting revenues for the rest of this fiscal year, and trying to make, some very well-informed projection for next year. As you know, that's been challenging to actually know what's going to happen with our economy, when it will fully reopen, when it will fully recover. We don't anticipate it being back to where we were pre-COVID next year, but we certainly do anticipate an increase in revenues over this year. But we'll be starting to roll out that information to the board as we compile it, and also looking for dates for budget study sessions. I also wanted to let you know we do have the citizen survey out to New Mexico residents. This is a survey that we've contracted with the National Citizen Review Organization, and we sent this survey out. We're getting those responses back. We'll also have a report, not before we kick off the budget process with the board, but certainly before we develop an interim budget or a final budget. We'll have the results of that survey so that you can have some informed decisions relative to where the general Santa Fe County constituency sees our need for improved services, or where we do a good job with services. So that's to try to help inform the board in budget making decisions. Also, we'd like to have a strategic planning update session of at least 4 hours with the board, maybe 2 days of 4 hours. It really, Elias doesn't know this yet, but I'll be kind of tapping him to help with that, since that was also something that Joey was responsible for. But I think we can still put together a good study session with the board to get some feedback from you and update the strategic plan before we finalize the budget, so that we make sure we are looking at areas as our revenues start to return, where we focus the growth in county budget. I will say this, I know we're going to have more requests than we have money. I can already tell. I've had requests from different department directors and elected officials about supporting funding for new positions. I think that's going to be challenging for us because we also have all of our 6 unions that we need to look at making sure we address any kind of economic reopeners with those union agreements. And I'm not sure how we'll balance all the demands on the budget as it returns. Our budget is not as healthy as the state. They got a lot more money in oil and gas than we obviously get. We rely greatly on tourism, and as you know, that was we took a significant hit in 2020 and continue to do so in the tourism industry. And that's a major source of our gross receipts tax revenue. So just wanted to give you kind of a heads up. Nothing to make any decisions at the moment, but certainly things to look for. We'll work with the liaisons on trying to find the best times for your schedules to schedule those meetings, and we'll try to do them well in advance of when we need to have them. So with that, Chair Roybal, I stand for any questions.
Okay, thank you, Manager Miller, and thank you for that update. Do we have any questions relative to that update? I'm going to go to Commissioner Hansen first, and then I'll go to Commissioner Hughes. Commissioner Hansen, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So just one thing that I have heard at the NACO meetings that I have been attending is that in the $1.9 trillion package, they are really pushing to make sure that counties and cities can directly apply for funds from this stimulus package, that it will not go through the state, that we will be able to apply directly. So I just wanted to share that with you. I'm sure you've probably heard that yourself, Manager Miller, but I think that's something that we need to keep an eye on.
Mr. Chair, Commissioner Hanson, thank you for mentioning that. As a matter of fact, I had a meeting with kind of a town hall or a small meeting just with city and county managers in a small portion of Representative Ledger Fernandez's district, and she mentioned that they are working, because we said that one of our big concerns was that it not go through the state and take so long to get to us, plus have a bunch of restrictions that we hoped in this next care bill or rescue bill or recovery bill, that we'd be able to receive funding for our operations in our community directly. Santa Fe, City of Santa Fe and County of Santa Fe, from what her response was, is that those local governments with a population of 50,000 or greater would likely get a direct allocation. So that is something that Santa Fe, City of Santa Fe and County of Santa Fe would receive, but unfortunately our neighbors to the north, Espanola, Rio Arriba County, Taos County, would still be too small to receive that directly and have to apply through the state. However, she did indicate that it'd be by a formula instead of having to do an application like we did the last time. What I don't know is what that formula will be, how much that could potentially be for us, but hopefully we'll know something sooner rather than later. And hopefully it will be flexible to be used to shore up our loss of revenues, and we'll be able to direct it to those areas that are really critical services that Santa Fe County provides. But thank you for mentioning that, Commissioner Hanson, because I did want to comment on that, and we are watching for it. And then there are other things that would be application based, and I think Joseph Montoya indicated this morning in housing that we'll be watching those to see where we can apply to any of the programs that might assist in housing, broadband expansion. We've actually been commenting on some of the language on that as well. So thank you for those, for reminding me of that.
Thank you, Commissioner Hanson. Was that it? I'll go to Commissioner Hughes.
Oh, thank you, Mr. Chair. I just have a quick question, and Catherine, I'm sorry if you said this, but what's the time frame for the board strategic planning sessions you were talking about?
I didn't give you an exact time because I lost Joey as our budget director, and that was one of her areas of responsibility. So I need to reassign that and see how we can quickly get something in front of you, hopefully by the end of March, early April. But I think, so I have a meeting with finance this week to try to set that course of budget study sessions to include some strategic planning focus, so that we can make sure we address some of those things, as well as kind of build the budget around the commission priorities, as well as the citizen survey responses.
Great, thank you very much. That was my only question.
Thank you, Commissioner Hughes. Any other questions from the commission? Commissioner Garcia?
Mr. Chair, this is Rudy. I have a question.
Go ahead, Commissioner Garcia.
Thank you, Manager Miller, for giving the update on what's happening with the budget, and I appreciate your questions, Commissioner Hughes, as into what is our time frame for that. And one of the things is, Catherine, you know this better than all of us. We just need to get Yvonne or whoever the director of finance is to give us a time frame of what we're going to, how we're going to do it. Got it? You know this, Catherine, Manager Miller. One of the other things I would like to know is the loss of revenue. that we're actually dealing with Santa Fe County, can we actually talk or have the assessor as well involved as into what his job and his responsibilities are as to bring in the revenue for this 3 to 5, 7 years and where we're at? Because that's kind of where it's at, isn't it? We approved opposition field building today as into for the 3% stuff, 3% tax hike. And so I would just like to hear from the tax assessor who actually does collect our taxes and does provide our revenue for Santa Fe County. And so if we can somehow coordinate with him as into what he feels we're going to be at and what we're going to do. So I'd appreciate that. And then I have another question in regards to another bill that's getting moved through the Senate. But Mr. Chairman, I don't know if you want me to bring that up now or do you want me to bring that up? But thank you, Catherine. Well, I appreciate you.
Mr. Chair, Commissioner Garcia, we actually, if there aren't any other questions on my miscellaneous updates, we're going to go to the next agenda item, which is legislative update, and Hutchie and Tessa Joe have an update on bills. And then we also had an opportunity to discuss we put a few bills on the agenda, but there's also others that you as commissioners may want to ask us about and give us some direction on. So that's the item after the next one.
So really quick, Mr. Chair, if I may, Manager Miller, just really quick. This is a bill introduced by the Senate. It's actually relating to criminal justice reform, providing statewide procedures for improvements and technical violations for parole and probation violations. I think it's gone to New Mexico counties and they're against it, and I'm sure you know about that bill. I have a question on that bill. What we need to do.
Mr. Chair, Commissioner Garcia, do you have the bill number by chance? It might be one of the ones that we have on for discussion.
No, I don't, but I'll listen and wait. Thank you, Madam.
Okay, so we also requested that the sheriff be involved in the discussion today. I see that he's on, and we have a couple of bills that we also know that he has concerns with that we want to bring forward.
Great. Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, Manager Miller.
Thank you, Commissioner Garcia. So next, is there any other questions from commissioners before we move on to our next item? Okay, seeing none, I'm going to go ahead and go on to item number C, and this is the first session of the 55th Legislative Potential Action to express support for or opposition to legislation that has been or may be introduced. And we're going to have Mr. Hutchie Miller and Tessa Joe Mascareñas for this one.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chair. Hutchie Miller, Santa Fe County Manager's Office.
Thank you, Hutchie.
Providing this Part C update. And what Daniel has up on the screen is the first part of the report that I sent to you earlier today. And I will go through this and go over some of the major legislative items which have been acted on since the last commission meeting. And then I can go over those particular pieces of legislation and leave a little time for any questions that you might have. So here on this first page is the calendar, and we have passed the midway point. And so the deadline for bill introduction has taken place. And so that's a good thing. It limits the time that we have to look at bills, and what we're looking out for now is any dummy bills that get changed to new forms of legislation, but it does decrease the amount of analysis time that we're looking at new bills now, so that's a good thing. Further down the page, they are the statistics for the amount of bills that have been introduced. And earlier on, during the legislative reports of this year, I was talking about how the House was limiting the pieces of legislation per representative. to 5 pieces, and it looks like they've stuck to that number, and they have 387, and 5 bills a piece for 70 reps would have been 350, so close to their goal there. Looks like the Senate, they didn't have a limitation in place, but they still have quite considerably less amounts of legislation introduced than what would have been in a non-pandemic 60-day session. You can go to the next page. So on this next page, page number 2, is the New Mexico County actions taken regarding legislation. And if you can scroll down a little bit further, there's the underlined items. And these underlined items are the new items which were brought forth at just this past Saturday's New Mexico County's board meeting. And so in support, the new one added, I needed to point this out, that's incorrectly marked. It should be House Bill 267. So that should be House Bill 267, not Senate Bill. So that one was voted on in support of Tourism Marketing and Career Advancement Program. And at the bottom of the opposed list are 2 new items which were opposed. And that's Senate Bill 376, prohibit quality immunity, it should be qualified immunity for law enforcement. And the second one is House Bill 268, coronavirus and workers' compensation. And I just wanted to note also from that top list of support, Senate Bill 39 has been tabled, House Bill 49 has been tabled, and Senate Bill 134, its D-pass motion failed. So those ones are currently going to be stuck in committee. We can go on to page number 3, which is the state budget. And this was just heard in House Appropriations and Finance Committee yesterday, and it got through unanimously, which is not always the case. There's usually some dissenters not going along with the full package. So this is a rarity that all members of the committee did pass this. And it looks like the state is going to have $332 million more than what we had in the current fiscal year. And this is due largely in part because of the increased prices and supply of oil in the state. So since we get a lot of our tax revenues from oil and gas, and these sectors are doing well within the whole nation, the state is benefiting from this. I'll just point out a few of the major notable items. Is a 1.5% pay raise for state employees, teachers, and higher education workers, and 3.5% raise for state judges. Also, we have $325 million to replenish the unemployment trust fund. This was a big issue because it was thought that unemployment contribution rates might be brought up higher by employers. But with this infusion of cash, it's expected that there won't be an increase to the unemployment tax rate. And further down, if you could just scroll down, Daniel. Under the one-time general fund appropriations, there's an item here which was a priority within one of the New Mexico County bills, and that's money for tourism and marketing. And within the state budget, they have allocated $5 million for that. And also wanted to note that the Senate is looking at putting $30 million in for broadband. And also the state, or I should say this budget doesn't include any expected federal stimulus dollars that could come in. And right now, the state economists are predicting that the federal infusion, which the state could receive within the next few months, could be between $2 billion and $3 billion. So that would loosen up a lot of cash that the state is allocating right now, and it would go a long ways to help out businesses, working families, education, a lot of different sectors within the state. So that's the overview of the budget right now. I just wanted to say too that this will change. This is the first committee which this has gone through, so they still have to take it to the House floor, and it's expected to be on the House floor by tomorrow. And there might be changes there for different legislators who still have projects or services that they want to include that aren't included in the budget right now. And it's also for sure going to change once it gets to the Senate side. And the Senate members will also have projects and services that they want to include. So it will most likely increase, and a lot of the legislation that's still in the mix right now, which has an appropriation tied to it, those are still going to be fought out to be included within the budget as a whole. So this is kind of just the first look at what the state's proposing as far as the budget, but this will change by the time it goes up to the governor. You can go to the next page, Dan. So here is the list of legislation which is related to the resolutions that the commission has passed so far. And I can quickly go over some of the top items. And here on page number 4 is HB 12, the Cannabis Regulation Act and Cannabis Tax Act. This item was passed on the 15th on President's Day, and had a very long amount of testimony starting on 14th, 13th, that Saturday. I think there's maybe 3 or 4 hours of debate, and then it was carried over to the Monday, which they finally voted on it. And House Bill 12 was the piece of legislation that was ultimately passed through the committee. 2 bills are being heard simultaneously, House Bill 12 and House Bill 17. House Bill 17 was tabled within the committee, and these items are very similar, and the most different part of House Bill 17 was the amount of at-home plants that could be grown, and that was the decider for those who voted to pass one or the other bills. And so that's how this particular bill, House Bill 12, made it through. And the latest cannabis bill which has been introduced is Senate Bill 363, which is, yeah.
How many House Bill 12?
It is varying, but what I recall is up to 12 plants.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. So I was saying the latest recreational cannabis bill is Senate Bill 363, but introduced by Senator Candelaria. And the other Senate bill is Senate Bill 288, introduced by Senator Hurdle. And neither of these bills have been heard on the Senate side yet. And just a quick overview of Senate Bill 363, it's very closely mirroring House Bill 12. So I think the approach is just trying to have two of the same bills coming from both sides so that both houses can hear the information once each bill crosses over, so that it has an opportunity to sink in with the legislators and they won't be hearing new information just from a cold start. So once again, House Bill 12 is the one that's currently moving, passed through one committee, and it's not, you don't see it here as scheduled for the next committee yet. The next item that I want to speak about was House Bill 236 on page number 8. And that is the public banking bill. And actually, there's a mirror bill of House Bill 236, and that is Senate Bill 313. And Senate Bill 313 is actually the one that has currently moved through committee. And it was along party lines. And a lot of the questions regarding this public banking issue is, how is this public bank that's going to be established different from the New Mexico Finance Authority currently? So I think there needs to be some education with the legislators on how exactly a public bank would differ from NMFA. And there's still a lot of questions about that. One of the major issues with public banking also is that it comes with a big price tag. It's looking like the way the bill is written is that $50 million would come from general fund and another $50 million from severance taxes. And so that's another big issue with public banking. But like I said, it does look like it has promise, and the Democrat members of the Senate right now are pushing it forward. The next item is Senate Bill 8 on page number 10. And this is one of the farthest moving environmental bills currently, and that is the eliminates no stricter than Fed rules for air hazardous waste. And that has made it through its committees, and it is going to the Senate floor, and that is moving quite along and is doing good. So those were the major items I wanted to talk about within the resolution tracking list. The the recreational cannabis bills, the public banking bills, and the out front environmental bill that's moving forward. If you wanted to pull up the second part, Daniel, the second report, which is just a list of the Santa Fe County related items, and there's 227 different items here. With included within this are many of the items that are going to be spoken about in Part D of the legislative discussion and the in Mexico County items, which have been opposed currently. And I just wanted to point out one item which I had questions about, and that's on page 25, and that's Senate Joint Resolution 15. And it's kind of an odd piece of legislation, and the title is Processes Which Counties May Succeed from New Mexico. And I haven't seen any press about why this piece of legislation has been introduced, or in particular the counties which were trying to secede from New Mexico. But basically it just talks about a process which 3 or more counties, if they decide to, what they have to do to get their process together to begin trying to either form another state entirely or to become part of an adjacent state. And because this is a Senate joint resolution, the process for this is that it would need to pass through the legislature and then be put on the ballot for consideration by New Mexico voters. So a majority of New Mexico voters would have to approve this as well if this did make it out of the legislature. So an interesting piece, and not always the easiest thing to do for proposed constitutional amendments to do to make it both through the legislature and also get approved by voters. And with that, that is the overview of things that are going on right now. And if you have any questions, I will gladly take them right now.
Okay, I'm going to go to Commissioner Hamilton. Commissioner Hamilton?
Sorry, I wasn't sure who. Hold on. Thank you. Hachi, thank you for that. Do you have any further information on that joint resolution 15? It seems so odd to me about how far any people expect it to make through the legislature. Is it going to die? Is it going to die in committee?
Okay.
Is it being supported? You know,
Mr. Chair, Commissioner, I don't believe that there's quite a lot of time left for it to make it all the way through the process. I'm sure that it's been introduced just to get the ideal out there.
Mr. Chair,
Yes,
I don't think
Manager.
it's been assigned to a committee, so I don't think it'll. I don't think it's even had a committee hearing, so it's not likely that it would make it through the process. Plus, I think it's more of a political statement than it is a reality of a bill. I think it's trying to indicate that there's political differences to the way the pandemic has been handled. So, but I don't think it's realistic that it would pass through both chambers and go to the voters.
I was just interested, not that certainly makes sense, but I also, it's one of those things that I wanted to assure that somebody was paying attention to it, like, you know, the Association of Counties, because it would It is probably just a political statement. Nevertheless, it gave me some concern. So I appreciate the effort in looking it up and all of that.
Thank you, Commissioner Hamilton. I'm going to go to Commissioner Hanson. I saw her name up as well, her hand.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So, Hachi, I have testified on a number of solar bills, but are they all moving forward? Community solar, the House Bill 9, the climate solution bill, a number of other ones.
Mr. Chair, Commissioner Hanson, yes, for the most part, I haven't seen any of the supported sustainability bills not being heard or just assigned and never brought up within committees. So within the first part of the report, there's the listings of the ones which are related to the Santa Fe County Sustainability Resolution. And what I can see is that they've all have at least passed through at least their first committee. And I believe what the holdup is actually is that there is in fact a price tag associated with these different sustainability bills. And so they have to be heard through their respective committees either on the House side or on the Senate side. And those are all being accounted for within the budget as a whole. So I think with a budget on the table right now, it can be seen what money is had or what money isn't available. So some of these sustainability bills will actually start moving now within the committee process again because the budget is proposed. So I would look forward to seeing them move forward now in the coming week.
Thank you. Thank you, Hutch. Also, I'm very gratified to see the $300 million for the road fund in the budget, and hopefully that we'll be able to get some of them.
Okay, great. Thank you, Commissioner Hanson. I'm going to go to Commissioner Garcia.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I appreciate the work that you all do there at the Roundhouse. As you know, we work together, and it's probably quite challenging these days to figure out how to get done and what needs to be done. This is a different way in life these days. And so thank you for what you guys do. Hutch, I have a question for you. The bill that I brought up earlier, I don't know what number it is. It's actually relating to criminal justice reform, providing statewide procedures for imposing sanctions for technical violations of probation violations. So I understand what that bill's about is actually corrections has so much money for people that are on parole, so on and so forth. And so DFA will give corrections department money to put them in our jail. Do you know anything about that?
I do not know specifically about that one, but it does sound related to the particular bills related to law enforcement, which are to be discussed in the next part of
Thank you. Thank you.
Legislative discussion.
Thank you. Appreciate it, Mr. Chair. And somebody brought up to my attention, I know the sheriff knows about that, or I think New Mexico County is kind of not in favor of that. So what that does is that actually allows parole violations to go to the county jail, and they will reimburse us to a certain degree. And it's probably one of those bills that actually gets introduced, and it stays in committee and it gets tabled. It does what it needs to do. But I was just wondering if you knew about that. But I will talk to Manager Miller about that at a later date. But I was wondering if you knew about that bill. And also, once again, thank you for what you do over there yourself, Tessa, and all the staff that's working over there, because it's challenging being there when you're live, and now these days it's just totally different. And But thank you for what we do, and I will talk to Manager Miller about that bill that's got introduced. Thank you, Hutch and Tessa and Daniel and Russ. Appreciate you guys.
Thank you, Commissioner Garcia. Are there any other questions? I'm going to go to Commissioner Hamilton. I don't think, no? Okay. Commissioner Hughes, did you have any questions or comments?
No, not at this time. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. All right, Hutch, thank you very much. Tessa, did you have anything to add either?
No, I think I'll just jump in to briefly summarize the bills that you all will be discussing in the next section.
Okay. So I think we can probably move on to that one. Is that correct?
Yes, sir. Thank you, Mr. Chair. Tessa Jo Mascareñas with the Legislative Team, County Manager's Office. The first bill that we will be discussing that was listed is Senate Bill 227. It's titled the Inspection of Police Misconduct Investigation, and it is sponsored by Senator Linda Lopez. According to most analysis, this bill is making a sweeping police reform proposal. It's meant to curtail police use of force, require de-escalation training, ban police chokeholds, tear gas, rubber bullets, and no-knock search warrants, as well as other measures. That's what's listed as the intent. The bill does amend existing provisions related to law enforcement and establishes a system for reporting and investigating officer-involved injuries and deaths. It amends the Inspection of Public Records Act to clarify that law enforcement misconduct investigation records will no longer be exempt from the provisions. It's very in detail, but in a nutshell, those are the initiatives that it is targeted at. And I'm not sure if Sheriff Mendoza would like to add anything else to that brief summary.
Okay, Sheriff Mendoza. Thank you, Tessa.
Thank you, Mr. Chair and Commission, for having me on. I don't have any specific.
Mr. Chair, Sheriff, I'm sorry to interrupt you. Can you speak a little closer to the mic, please?
Yes, sorry. I thank you, Mr. Chair, Commission, for having me speak on a couple of these bills. I don't have anything more specific than Tessa gave in reference to the body of the bill, but I would like to make some comments in reference to my feelings in regards to Senate Bill 227, if that's okay.
Absolutely, sir. Please proceed.
Okay. In regards to Senate Bill 227, I think that there are some provisions in the overall bill that wouldn't be an issue in regards to some things like banning chokeholds in non-deadly force situations, talking a little bit about reporting excessive force or officer-involved shootings. And I'm not against some of the reasonable recommendations and legislations to curtail the excessive use of force, things like de-escalation and some of the things that I talked about, the chokeholds and such. The problem that I have with the bill, it attempts to change the use of force standard of objectively reasonable and the totality of circumstances. And these standards are set by the United States Supreme Court. I think the state legislature is overstepping its bounds to make it more restrictive for law enforcement. The standards that have already been set forth by the United States Supreme Court when it's in regards to excessive force and use of deadly force. I think it really fails to recognize the split-second decisions in life-threatening situations that law enforcement are facing on a daily basis, and it goes too far to redefine justifiable homicide by police officers, in my opinion. I'm not against the provisions of placing de-escalation efforts on the forefront before resulting in use of force or deadly use of force. But in the same bill, it limits the use of force, use of non-deadly force by taking away some tools that law enforcement use before it results in deadly force. And some of that is tear gas, chemical weapons, which would be considered mace or OC spray that sometimes officers use to bring a suspect into compliance before it gets to a major use of force or deadly force situations. The use of rubber bullets and some of these less lethal means to bring suspects or criminals into compliance before it results in major injuries or death. And so I think it's addressing too many issues in one bill, and you know, also an issue that's in the bill is it requires law enforcement to call medical or mental health professionals to the scene prior to dealing with an issue if there's an indication that there is a mental health or behavioral health issue, and that's great, but I don't think the resources are out there for law enforcement to reach out to. I mean, who do we call? Who do we call to come to the scene? I just don't think that those resources are there, and the time limit that the legislature is requiring this bill to go into effect is requiring all these recommendations and laws be utilized. I mean, be taken into effect within 90 days. I think that's just unrealistic. I really think that this bill in the totality addresses too many issues, and by doing that, I think it benefits the criminals more than it does the safety of the public or law enforcement. And I think it's going to end up in affecting the way police do their jobs. I think there's going to be less police officers that want to be proactive out there stopping crimes before they occur. And I think we're going to have more officers just kind of waiting to receive a call after a situation has already occurred and responding more and being reactive more than they would be proactive. So those are my comments on Senate Bill 227.
Thank you, Sheriff Mendoza. Do we have any questions from the board? Looking for a show of hands.
Mr. Chair, I have some comments. Really, Sheriff, thank you for waiting and speaking up on this bill. And also in regards to Tessa or Hutch, is this bill moving forward or it's not moving forward? Because it seems like the sponsor of the bill actually is a very powerful individual, obviously, Senator Lopez. And so is it moving forward? Is it not moving forward? Do we know about that? Or Catherine, Manager Miller?
Yes, Mr. Chair, Commissioner Garcia, it is currently in the Senate Health and Public Affairs Committee.
And also, Mr. Chair,
it was assigned to Senate Health and Public Affairs and also referred to Senate Judiciary. So it's in its first committee.
And so was there a House bill that is actually the same type of bill in the House side, or this is only a Senate bill?
I have yet to see a House bill that matches this.
And Mr. Chair, and Tessa or Hutch, how many more days are left in the session? 20? 10?
Mr. Chair, Commissioner Garcia, we have 25 days left.
Sheriff, Mr. Chair, Sheriff, have you actually heard of any other sheriffs that are against this bill or spoken to Senator Lopez on this?
I can't speak. This is a sheriff, Mr. Chair, Commission. I can't speak for other sheriffs. I know that there has been some issues that have been brought up by NM counties in regards to some of the overreach in this bill and some of the regulations and requirements that will be put on law enforcement in counties and cities throughout the state. But like I said, I think there are some good issues in here, some de-escalation issues and such. But I think this bill just incorporates too many aspects law enforcement and use of force to really make a change.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, Sheriff. And also, I would just like to defer to Manager Miller because she has a lot of stuff on her plate. And so, what is New Mexico County talking about this bill? Do we know about it, Manager Miller?
Mr. Chair, Commissioner Garcia, it came up, and the reason that I put it on here for discussion with the board is that it started to go around the New Mexico counties as to how did we feel about the bill. I sent it to, or asked Hutch to do a little analysis, send it to the sheriff. You know, it's one of these things where we don't really go chasing every bill from the standpoint of speaking up against them unless they look like they're moving and there's something that would be really detrimental to us. That said, this environment of the way that the session is operating is incredibly hard for us to get a hold of a legislator and have a discussion. It's not like you're over in the roundhouse and you can catch somebody in the hallway, stop in their office. It takes multiple days to actually get time, and you don't have a little 5-minute conversation. You have to set up a meeting. So what we're trying to do by bringing some of these to you on every BCC meeting is just to make sure that we don't speak out on behalf of the county if a bill like this does start moving, that we don't speak out on behalf of the county without having the support of the board to speak either for or against a bill. So I have no idea whether this bill will get traction or not, but it was one that the New Mexico counties came to the managers and said, hey, what do you guys feel about this? So we ran it by the sheriff to see how he felt about it. If you don't want to take a position on it at this time, it's not necessary. But we just thought it was something that does affect the sheriff's office, and he had concerns with it.
Mr. Chair, if I may, actually, if the sheriff and Catherine, if you want to go against the bill and we need to do something against it, I'm okay moving forward against the bill, as long as my other colleagues are as well. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Commissioner Garcia. Commissioner Hughes?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair. I think I have a lot of respect for Senator Lopez, and I don't think there was any ill intention on her part. I think she's trying to do something good here, and the sheriff mentioned that there are some parts of this bill that are good. I looked on the schedule for tomorrow, and this bill is the first bill on Senate Public Affairs for tomorrow. So, you know, it'll probably pass that committee because most bills pass that committee and go on to Senate Judiciary, where they could change it. I would suggest if we want to take a position, it'd be more like we like these parts and we don't like these parts, and that could be exactly what Sheriff Mendoza just outlined. But I would hate to see us just oppose it, because I think it is trying to get at a problem that exists, and I think Senator Lopez has very good intentions with this bill. And so I would rather us take a more nuanced stance.
Thank you, Commissioner Hughes. Commissioner Hamilton?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I would support Commissioner Hughes' vote.
Thank you, Commissioner Hamilton. Commissioner Hansen?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Yeah, I support Commissioner Hughes and Commissioner Hamilton's approach on this. I think that some of these things in this bill actually might track with our racial and social justice bill that we brought forward in August, but then there are many things that do not. And so I think that finding the places that support where we stand and finding the places where we don't, I think is important. And I agree with also Sheriff Mendoza that there might be some good things in this bill and there are some bad things in this bill. And so it might need to be edited like in that regard. So thank you.
So, Mr. Chair, if I may real quick, please.
Go ahead, Commissioner.
As Manager Miller said, it's hard these days to actually follow a bill because you can't go have lunch. You can't go meet with the legislator in their office. It's a whole different ballgame these days. And for Hudson, Tessa, or Manager Miller, or any of us to go talk to anybody out there or sit there online all day long and to meet with somebody, it's just challenging these days. And so it's almost like when a bill gets introduced, as you all know, when a bill gets introduced, it can change from committee to committee to committee before it gets on the other side of the roundhouse. So I guess we just need to look out and trust our staff, Manager Miller and our staff and the New Mexico County, say this is not a good sheriff, with all due respect, and trust the sheriff and say this is not a good bill. But it's just, I can't even imagine going to the roundhouse these days because it's nobody's allowed in there. Catherine, with this better than any of us. And it's just, so how do we do that? How do we work it? I don't know, but I guess that's just see where it goes. Like the Commissioner Hughes says, Senator Lopez is an individual that has a lot of influence there, and she does good from her heart, and that's what she thinks is right. But like the sheriff said, there's a lot of things here that we have questions about because it's a liability to all of the counties. So I guess Manager Miller, I will take your lead as to what do you think we should do? And so that's where I'm at. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Commissioner Garcia. Who said that?
I did, Mr. Chair, Manager
Oh,
Miller.
Manager Miller, go ahead.
And I think that I can get a sense from the comments that the board wouldn't want us to outright oppose the bill, but actually look at those things that the sheriff indicated would be problematic and those things that are not consistent with our social justice bill, that we would, if necessary, speak in favor of amendments to the bill that better reflect the county's position.
I think that's what I was hearing as well, but I do think that we need to work with Sheriff Mendoza and make sure that we look at his concerns and we bring forward those concerns with his input, of course.
Mr. Chair, it looks like the sheriff wanted to say something else.
Go ahead, Sheriff Mendoza.
Mr. Chair, Commission, thank you. And I really appreciate just getting a few minutes to give my input. This bill it's a longer bill than some of the others, and there's a lot in there. So I really respect the Commission's decision to really look into this. We talked about a lot just now, and there is a lot of information in there. And I really, a lot of information for in a few minutes to decide whether to support it or not support it. So I really appreciate the fact that the Commission wants to take a closer look at it. I would suggest that they read the bill and get a little bit more familiar with what's in the bill. And I do have an analysis that was forwarded to me by NM counties, by their legal staff, and I'd be more than willing to forward that to everybody so you can get a better look at exactly what they think is some good points and bad points in that legislation. But please take your time, listen in on committee if you have the time. But I really think that when you read the bill and you get a little bit more clear understanding of what it's entailing, there are some things that are just not good for law enforcement in that bill.
Okay, perfect. Commissioner Hamilton, you had an additional comment?
No, I was just going to say, yes. I'm just going to say that getting that analysis from the sheriff would be very helpful, and thank you for suggesting it, Sheriff.
Okay. Any other comments from the Commission? Okay. So, Manager Miller, I guess, and Tessa, you guys have direction on where the commission wants to go, correct?
Mr. Chair, yes, I think we can definitely, if necessary, have constructive comments relative to that bill that would reflect our concerns collectively.
Okay, thank you, Manager Miller. So we're going to go on to item number 8, and these are matters from county commissioners and other elected officials. 8A is commissioners' issues, comments, including but not limited to constituent concerns, recognitions, requests for updates, or future presentations. I'm going to go through each commissioner. Commissioner Hanson.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So I would like to just bring up the idea of processes for amendments. I felt very uncomfortable about the way that the bill that Commissioner Hamilton and I were introduced was amended. I have spent a lot of time in the legislature, and there is a process for doing amendments, and usually the sponsors of the resolution get to introduce the resolutions first. And then at that point, there is an amendment. And I felt like it was, I was a little taken back by the fact that we didn't even get to introduce the bill. So I was thinking that we need to have a process for adding amendments to to resolutions. And, you know, part of it is possibly we have a 24-hour rule so that if there are amendments to a resolution, that it's presented, or at least maybe by the Friday before, so that the public has the opportunity to comment on a bill, on an amendment that we've already offered, and also giving us as commissioners time to look at the resolution and look at the amendments, because I did feel after I had some time to look at those amendments that they were not really germane to the resolution that we brought forward. And even though it's done and I'm not going to try and undo anything, it made me think that we need to look at a way of amending bills and how it is fair, so that everyone has the opportunity, including the public, to be more transparent. So maybe that's a 24-hour rule. Maybe that if people have amendments, if some commissioner has an amendment, we automatically then table the bill. You know, there's ways to deal with this. And I would just like the commission to think about this, because doing it before we even got to introduce the bill was uncomfortable to me. And I just would like to have us have a process that's fair for everyone. And so, somehow the county manager and the county attorney had copies of this bill beforehand. And I remember in the past when Tony was here, that if there was any changes to bills when we were on the dais, and I know we're in a completely different situation now, but he would always distribute things before the meeting. So we'd at least have things at the beginning of the meeting that were changed. And so I know we're not going to go back to meeting in person anytime soon. So maybe we need to have, a way for an email if the amendments happen that's 24 hours before the meeting, so that commissioners have at least time to read it over. So that is the main thing. I found it very interesting. I have been talking to the county manager about art in our new buildings. I'm changing the subject, obviously. And that we don't have anything about art in our strategic plan. And I was informed by my digging, talking to the NACO Arts and Culture Committee. They put me in touch with the New Mexico Arts Committee. And then it appears that we had a resolution in 2014 where we created a Arts, Culture, and Cultural Tourism Committee. And they presented a report in 2017 that maybe Commissioner Hamilton and maybe Commissioner Roybal remember. I vaguely remember Ramona Saraswati being at the commission meeting, but they had made a number of suggestions about how we could support artists at Santa Fe County. And so I've just started reading it. I asked Chris Heyer about it, and he said that it was something he inherited. I think this was done under David Grissom when he was in economic development. So I'm starting to just read through this report, and so that we don't have to start at ground zero, that there's already been all this work done. It's a 160-page report or 114-page report about, possibly having art trails in the community. And we have a tremendous amount of artists who are struggling right now under this COVID situation. And so I think this might be a good time for us to start thinking about how do we incorporate supporting artists in our community. How do we, help support the cottage industry? Is that by art trails? How do we partner with some of our stages, like this Save Our Stages money that might be coming through from the federal government? Where is there art money that might be coming through? And then how could we possibly get art into our new buildings? Would that be through a lease program or there's a lot of complications and ideas, but one thing that was very interesting was that the director of New Mexico Arts, Michelle Lafemme Childs, was the vice chair of this committee, and she is still very interested in working with us. And so I'm bringing this up as something for us to talk about and think about as we're doing the next strategic plan, and where we could possibly put art and thinking about supporting our community. Santa Fe is, one of the major art centers in the United States. And many of those artists live in the county. They don't just all live in the city. And so I'm just trying to think of our constituents and how we can help them and think outside the box in different ways. And I think those are the two items that I have at this particular point to bring forward to talk about. I thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Commissioner Hanson. Commissioner Garcia?
Mr. Chair, this time I don't have anything to bring forward. Just thank you, staff, and for everybody what you do. And it's already March, and I'm still looking for that Bobcat. Just to let Commissioner Hughes know, I'm looking for that Bobcat still. I heard it's in the El Dorado area, but just looking for that Bobcat. But no, I appreciate everybody, my colleagues, because as us as elected officials and what we do, it's just challenges out there. But and all volunteers that are out there, our county manager and the entire staff. Thank you, Mr. Chair. Appreciate y'all.
Thank you, Commissioner Garcia. Commissioner Hamilton?
Sure. No, I don't have too much, but I wanted to take the opportunity to comment on what Commissioner Hanson suggested. First of all, having a process on doing amendments to a resolution. sounds like a very reasonable idea. So now we just have to figure out a process to figure that process. Just a joke. But doing something to address that makes sense to me. And if you actually have the art report, maybe you could share that around. Anything that could be discussed at the strategic planning. My first thought is it's a very sorry, I keep hitting my mute button. A very difficult budgetary situation to be thinking about things like that, but boy, talking about it in strategic planning might be a good place to do it. I mean, it's the right place to do it. So thanks for bringing that up and sharing that report. I have a very vague recollection of it from a couple of years ago. So I'd love to look at it again. And thank you.
Okay,
Mr.
thank
Chair,
you, Commissioner Hamilton.
Mr. Chair.
You have something else, Commissioner Hanson?
I will have Sarah send that out to everybody as a link. And then we can all take a look, because there are things that are relevant still, and there are things that are not relevant. And it was introduced, it was brought forward to us, I think, in 2017, like maybe in March or April. I mean, it was very right at the beginning of our tenure. And so I didn't even remember it until it was pointed out to me. So I will be happy to share it. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Commissioner Hanson. Commissioner Hughes?
Oh, yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair. And I'm in support of Commissioner Hamilton's idea of a process to find the process for amending and looking at resolutions more carefully. We don't have a committee structure like the city does or the state to look at legislation and, work on it. And so maybe we do need I'm not suggesting we have a committee structure, but I think maybe a process would lead to better ordinances and resolutions. I did want to report that I went to the San Marcos Community Association meeting last Thursday. They include part of my district and part of Commissioner Garcia's district. Commissioner Garcia had a school board meeting that night, so I had to represent the county along with Olivia, the constituent liaison, who fortunately covers both districts. And I just wanted to mention some of the things that they brought up. They did bring up the dark skies thing. That's obviously a concern. I've heard that from people all over my district. People are really concerned about keeping the skies dark so we can see the Milky Way clearly at night. They also had a lot of questions about the Cerrillos Senior Center Fire Station and are wanting to follow that closely and see that open. I think they're seeing a lot of need out there. They were also asking about Meals on Wheels, and they were glad that the Senior Center wasn't going to affect the Meals on Wheels program for people who can't make it out of their houses. They've also had a lot of small blackouts, and actually one fairly long blackout of their electrical service out there. So Olivia and I have sent several missives to PNM to try and find out what's going on. I think it's just that system, that community has grown. Some solar panels have been added out there, and none of it has been really incorporated into a robust circuit for that area. So hopefully PNM has promised to work on that. And I just wanted to mention that. I also wanted to say that I'm not sure we finished item 7D because I saw other bills listed there. And so I was just wondering, Manager Miller is usually pretty good at jumping in if we miss something, but I thought we should give her the opportunity to say whether she wants to finish 7D or whether that was all.
Mr. Chair, none of them are at this point that critical, and I think we'll end up with a really long conversation about like specifically what to say on any of those bills. I don't know that any of them are moving yet, and so perhaps the next meeting is a better time to discuss those. I think the only one you had asked about, Commissioner Hughes, was the regional transit one. And best I can tell, there's no reason that we wouldn't be fine with that, Bill.
Yeah, I don't think there's a need to discuss that, and we can do that next time if people are interested.
Okay, thank you, Commissioner Hughes. Was that it?
And that's it for me. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Okay, so and I think that we would be as far as doing a process for amendments. I know we've always just done friendly amendments during the meeting, in a lot of different ways, even in ordinances or when we do approvals of subdivisions or anything like that, as far as amendments that and recommendations that the board has made. And so I think the biggest thing with that, as far as amendments, and I just want to make sure that all, the commissioners, even if during the meeting, if something comes up and they feel like it would be a good change, that they would have the opportunity to bring that forward. And if the tabling motion until a different meeting, so that those can be considered. But I think that whatever the amendment is, I think that even if it's tabled at that point, then the amendment should be brought forward in a public setting, and so that the public will know what the amendments are that are being considered, and then we can at that time table for consideration or accept them at that point. But I think there could be other options. Manager Miller, did you have anything relative to that that thought?
Well, Mr. Chair, Commissioner Hanson and I discussed this a little bit, and I think that, a lot of times the friendly amendments are usually just a sentence or two. I think the last amendment was a little more extensive, and as I had indicated during that meeting, I had just gotten that and wanted at least it to be typed so you could see it when you discussed it. And it wasn't done until we were already in our meeting. I don't know if you want to, we've done things as Commissioner Hanson suggested, that before, when we've had, like we had a policy before that resolutions, I want to clarify, these aren't bills, they're resolutions. They're policy statements, and not same as ordinances and our regulations that do require public hearings. And if they've changed substantially in title, we have to re-advertise them anyway. So there's a distinction between amendments to our ordinances and amendments to and friendly amendments to resolutions. But we did have a circumstance where we used to actually have resolutions on 2 meetings, and we had passed a policy to do that, but then the board actually took that away and said that was too cumbersome and made it difficult just to do some of our, what I'll call maybe our feel-good resolutions, or to do resolutions in a timely fashion to something that's occurring quickly. So I don't know if you want to want us to look at some suggestions on, that if an amendment to a resolution is more than, a sentence or two, that it needs to be presented sooner and distributed and put on our website, versus if it's just a little language tweak during the meeting. This is really up to you guys. We try to accommodate getting your items on the agendas and having good dialogue about whatever those items are, and to be able to make changes on the fly. We have them up in our usually on our computers, the Word documents, so we can make those changes. But it's completely up to the board if you want us to propose some potential policies for it.
Mr. Chair, I think you're muted.
Mr. Chair?
Yeah. Okay. Give me 1 second, Commissioner Hanson. I think that, that would be something we can possibly look at. The only thing is I think that if there is an amendment that is denied, and I guess would it be the individual that brings the resolution forward that would say, no, we're not going to add that? And I think that if that commissioner feels like it's important to try to add those amendments, then I think that they can, that they should, the public should know what was not allowed for whatever reason. So that's why I think that even during a meeting, if these are my friendly amendments, it's table, come back, and then make a decision whether those will stay. But I do think it's important, especially if it's something that a commissioner is passionate about, So, Commissioner Hanson.
So one of the things that I would like us to pay attention to in the future is that there is a process for making amendments already. And one of the things that set me back was, or troubled me, was that you, Mr. Chair, introduced your amendments before we even got to introduce the resolution. And according to Robert's Rules of Order, which is what I believe we follow, the resolution should have at least been able to be introduced by myself and Commissioner Hamilton. And then at the point when commissioners had a change, that is when you offer amendments. And so I would like that kind of process to be followed in the future. That's one simple little statement that is basically Robert Rules of Order. And then, like if there is then if there is changes to a resolution, that it is sent to each of us via email so that we can actually read it, because I was actually struggling during that meeting to see where these amendments were, where they were put into the resolution. And so those are some of the issues that I had. And clearly the public did not have any time to make any statement. Some of the comments that were made after we passed that resolution accused me of supporting pit production, which, to be completely honest, I do not support pit production. That resolution didn't say anything pro or opposed to pit production. And so by adding those amendments, I was accused of doing something that I completely do not support. And so it didn't give the public the opportunity to actually see what we were doing. And so that is also important to me. So I think we need to follow the Robert's Rules of Order and the way of making amendments to resolutions. And then also, if the amendments are more extensive than a word or two or a sentence, that resolution then be tabled, so that the commissioners and the public have the opportunity to actually make comments about it.
Okay.
And
I'm fine with that. I just, I think the other thing would be, I think whenever a resolution comes forward, that we should probably go through all of the commissioners before we make a motion or a second, just so that we can have input from all the commissioners. And then this way, you know, it would give everybody the opportunity to speak on the resolution. If that's all right, we can do something like that as well.
Of course. I mean, that is completely the correct process and the way to do it. It was just, this resolution was not done in the correct process.
Okay. Any other comments or questions? I think I went through everybody already on the commission.
Mr. Chair, I have a couple of questions. I understand what we're trying to do, and I guess in 5, 10, 20 years, when you look at the commission, if there's 3 or 4 votes as to where we need to go, and I think it's up to the public to have that 72 hours notice of what we're going to do and what we're going to talk about, because we could have 5 commissioners. Just
what?
This was not meant to be a full discussion of the actual topic. Commissioner Hanson brought this up as matters from the commission as something she wanted to have considered in the future, but this is not a posted agenda item that we can have a discussion about. We can do this in the future. That was what was suggested. So just point of order.
I think all the commissioners commented on this already, except for Commissioner Garcia. But
okay,
you know,
as long as the attorney is okay with it.
Okay.
No, I'm fine with it, but I think it's something that needs to be brought forward to any county commission statewide. So I'm fine. Let's bring it forward. Let's discuss it. But thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Commissioner Garcia. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and go and move off of item number 8A and go to 8B, and this is other elected officials. Do we have Sheriff Mendoza present still at this meeting? I think he may have signed off.
Mr. Chair, he told me he had to leave.
Okay, no worries. So, Catherine Clark, did you have anything that you'd like to announce today to our constituents or?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. No, not at this time. We are doing the Board of Registration this week and plan to have a secondary meeting in order to meet the March 15th deadline. But in terms of long-term things, we have some things coming up, but not ready to announce. But thank you.
Thank you. Okay, so we're going to move on to, we've already done 8C, which was a presentation of a certificate. Next, we have 9. We have 9, which is matters of the county attorney. Do any commissioners have any other requests from the reports that we've been given by staff? If not, we can let staff go and we'll go into executive session. Yes, Commissioner Hanson?
I just want to thank staff for all the reports. I especially enjoyed reading the public works and growth management. I love knowing how many houses have been built and et cetera. So thank you. I just want to say thank you to everybody. And I like reading the public works, all the comments. And thank you, Gary, for an extensive report this time. I appreciated it. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you, Commissioner Hanson, and I would express those same sentiments. The reports that we get for every meeting are top notch, so thank you all for doing that. With that, I'd entertain a motion to go into executive session. If we can get a summary of what we're going into executive session for from our county attorney, Mr. Schaefer.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. First of all, there was a separate link that was sent around for this evening's executive session, so we will need to exit this meeting and join that WebEx meeting. Secondly, I don't believe that there are any other matters on the agenda that will require the board to reconvene in open session. So I believe you can adjourn the open session as part of your motion to go into executive session. And again, that will end the open portion of this evening's meeting. In terms of the matters to be discussed in executive session, there's only one, and that is threatened or pending litigation in which Santa Fe County is or may become a participant. as allowed by section 1015-187 NMSA 1978. And that is the second item that's included on the agenda, the City of Albuquerque versus New Mexico Taxation and Revenue Department, cause number D202 CV 2018-08036. So again, that would be the only matter to be discussed in executive session. And I think the motion should include direction or a statement that the open session of tonight's meeting is adjourned.
Okay, thank you, Attorney Schaefer. Can I get a motion in that regard? Commissioner Hamilton?
Yes, I would move that we adjourn this meeting, go into executive session to discuss the matter as just described by County Attorney Schaefer.
Okay, so I have a motion from Commissioner Hamilton and a second from Commissioner Hughes. I'm going to go to a roll call vote. Commissioner Garcia?
Yes, Mr. Chair, thank you.
Commissioner Hanson?
Yes, thank you.
Commissioner Hamilton?
Yes.
Commissioner Hughes?
Yes.
And a yes. Oh, never mind. I'm going to have to go back and say, Madam Clerk, can you please give us a roll call?
Yes, Mr. Chair. Chair Roybal,
Yes.
Commissioner Anna Hamilton,
Yes.
Commissioner Anna Hansen,
Yes.
Commissioner Rudy Garcia,
Yes.
Commissioner Hank Hughes.
Yes.
All right, all yes.
Okay, we're adjourned. Thank you all, to the public, staff that were here tonight, and you have a great and safe evening. Thank you, Madam Clerk.